Dr. Raj Kalsi is a board-certified emergency medicine physician. He joins us now from Illinois. Let's start with that issue in the US, the mass protests all around the country, thousands of people in close quarters. I mean, it is outdoors, but it's close quarters. What could the impact be of that lack of social distancing? Could these be spreader events?
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me back on. Well, when we think about all the mass gatherings, the appropriate protesting that people have a right to do, I don't look at it too differently than when people gather in stadiums. And what have we said about gathering in stadiums, like sports arenas and that sort of thing? Though it's outdoors, which is beneficial to those who are gathering, there's a lot of contact that I'm seeing. And there's some people that aren't wearing masks. And by definition, when people are interacting with each other and when police are literally handling protesters, there's a communication of virus, if there is any virus to be shed.
And at the same time, a lot of concerns on reopening around the world, really. In the UK, the London mayor, other government advisors are worried it's happening too soon there. In the US, there's some similar concerns in some cities, which are still seeing increases in cases. How does one make that calculation best? I mean, striking the balance between what are economic and social realities versus the risk of sparking resurgence.
You know, Michael, as I've said before, this reopening is completely arbitrary to me. I'm not an economist. I'm not a politician. I'm a scientist. I'm a doctor. And when I think about viral communication from one human being to another, from one human being to several human beings, reopening comes at two costs. The one cost is that you're going to, by definition, increase the possibility of contamination and people shedding the virus and communicating it. However, as a doctor, I do worry about this. I worry about social unrest. I worry about people starving because they're not employed. I worry about our economy faltering and the economic downturns people have and cannot afford medical care and die at home, as I'm hearing more and more over the radio, the ambulance radio, that people are either committing suicide or they're dying at home, perhaps because they're not seeking health care because they can't afford it.
That is heartbreaking, and I know that I was reading what you were saying earlier, that you are seeing a lot more of those cases as well. Masks have become a hot button issue. I mean, in many ways it's being turned into a type of culture war. Masks almost a metaphor for the political divide in the country. What do you say to people who feel masks are somehow infringing on their rights or freedoms?
They're taking a risk, just like you take a risk when you cross the street, Michael. When you have a couple alcoholic beverages and get in your car to go home, you're taking a risk. Not wearing a mask is taking a risk, and everybody has to mitigate that risk on their own. However, in this particular case, the wearing or not wearing of a mask does affect your neighbor, and you have to take on that ethical responsibility as well.
Yeah, good point. I wanted to ask you too. Yeah, I see it around my neighbourhood, and I'm curious your thoughts on complacency. I mean, there seem to be signs emerging that people are just over it. That we're now focused on other things. It's starting to reopen, and people are dropping their guard. I mean, this hasn't gone away. What are your thoughts?
I feel the same way, Michael. I have quarantine fatigue myself. Quarantine fatigue is a real thing. Quarantine psychosis is a real thing. I'm seeing well-to-do young professionals who have done everything they've been asked to do, becoming psychotic, having delusions, becoming severely depressed. I've had moments of sadness and depression over the future for my kids, and seeing this. Quarantine fatigue is a real thing. What do? You have to re-investigate the risk for yourself. You have to find other alternate ways to foster your soul, to meditate, to exercise, to socially engage with those you love and those you care about in a safe manner so that you can fight this fatigue.
Yeah, a very good point. And the mental health issue is often understated in all of this. Dr. Raj Kalsi, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.